are to be in with a chance to win it. Right, back to, I think it's the last segment of the show. And we are going to be talking about, I know, chat, I know, it's Elite Dangerous time. Listen, I'm wearing my Elite Day. It's always close to my heart, is Elite. I probably knocked the microphone and Adam's shaking his head then. Don't do that. It's a rookie mistake. Sorry, get excited. Okay, we're going to have a little look at Power Play 2.0. I do mention it in the chat, and I have said it at the start. We were going to have a bit of a longer conversation with the wonderful Simon Brewer, but unfortunately he was ill. So this is a little bit lighter, but we still got stuff to show you, chat, about Power Play 2.0. And the wonderful Luke Betterton stepped in last minute, very early morning. This morning, I hadn't had time to do my hair. And we sat down and had a chat about Power Play 2.0 coming later this year. And again, it's just a very light overview, but there's some cool stuff to have a look at. Enjoy this. Hello, Luke. Welcome to the show. Now, Luke, correct me if I'm wrong here. I believe in the years that we've been working together, this is the first time we've probably done an interview together, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, which is weird, right?
It's very weird.
Yeah.
We've been working Elite since I've been here.
We're in meetings at least once a week.
Yes, and we've never done this. So this is weird. Anyways, Luke, thank you so much for coming onto the show. We're going to be talking about Power Play. Now, full disclaimer for chat, we were going to have the very, very wonderful Simon Brewer, famous for Brewer Court, was going to come on, but he's not been very well. So you're going to stand in for Simon, do your very best. But if in the chat we can have some 07s for Simon, we will get him on and we will talk about some of the Power Play stuff he's been working on. But don't despair, because Luke, you're a genius, right? So you're going to talk us through some of the Power Play.
Yeah, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But so Power Play, for, I guess let's start at the top. General light touch overview for today's show. We have got some stuff to show you, by the way, chat. But for those that don't know, can you give us an idea of what Power Play is, Luke?
So, well, yeah, I guess we're kind of talking in like two parts, right? Currently, Power Play is essentially this sort of, big, sort of high level political competition between multiple different major powers, as they're called. Obviously, it's Power Play. So these different powers try and own various different bits of territory because that creates, that's beneficial for their political impetus, whatever it is that they're trying to do. They all have their own characters, they all have their own political leanings. So that's essentially the version of Power Play that we're continuing. The way that it's implemented in the game at the moment is, should be familiar to quite a lot of people, but it's essentially, lots of different actual combats over territory. You've got non-combat activities like trade and various other bits and pieces as well. And the Power Play refresh that we're doing is essentially that, but like super polished and way more engaging. So, yeah.
So it's basically players get a chance to pledge their power, right? They do activities to expand that power's influence over the galaxy, and they get rewarded for it in a nutshell. But what we're doing for Power Play Point, say we, still royal we, Luke, this is what you guys are doing.
Royal we. You're helping.
I'm doing my little bit. But what we're trying to do now is make this a little bit more accessible, way more polished for players, and allow them to sort of, I think the cool thing about what you're doing now is the visual representation of the player's influence on a power and its influence, therefore, on a system, right?
Yeah, it's exactly that. So, like, you've got, in the existing system, like it's very like it's high level. There's a lot of menus. You generally you get a feeling for how your actions are like affecting Power Play when you look at Power Play. But we don't feel like it's doing a good job of like connecting to the universe. Whereas what should be happening is these powers are coming in and essentially just like imposing their own sort of influence on the various different locations that they are then taking control over or competing for control over. And even like in locations where they're not in control, like obviously that should look and feel different. And that's kind of one of the main things we want to do with Power Play is that as you move around the galaxy, you can see Power Play happening. And that means that as you do stuff in Power Play, you can make that happen yourself and you can direct those changes and thousands of other people can do it.
Yes, and that's the cool thing. And one of the things we're going to show now, so I think if our wonderful producer Adam can start rolling some of the footage, we're going to have a look at sort of the different states we can find systems in for Power Play, right? And we're going to look at an Imperial station or stations in various different states. Then we're going to talk about the states as a light touch. As we're looking at it now, we're looking at the footage going through the three different states. So we've got exploited, fortified, and stronghold, and we'll see these ticking through. But what you'll notice here, and I guess it's probably best in this is where we were going to have the wonderful Simon, because he's done a lot of work here and a lot of the
he'd do a
artists done here.
fantastic job of explaining what's going on here. So I guess we'll like talking about exploited, right? Exploited is, some of these terms will be familiar to people who've played Power Play before, but in this instance, essentially, a power has come in and said, like, we're here, we're doing stuff, right? We are going to, we're going to apply our influence here, and we don't really care too much about what you guys have already decided to do politically speaking, but we're going to impose our kind of influence over the top of that. So that means that you'll see things like, the locals won't be too happy about this potentially, because it's a very early stage of their kind of integration. So you'll see like graffiti, like I hate this person or whatever it is. You'll see, some light branding, like some of the banners will change very quickly, because that's the thing that the power can do very easily and very quickly. And then as things get a little bit more, as you progress from exploited and you start to increase the power's influence over the system, you show the locals that this is a good thing for you guys, actually. Like, you should enjoy this. You're into, like, this is a great thing for your economy.
You will enjoy this.
Well, yeah, some of the powers are a little bit more like that, which is, the kind of iron fist versus the
gentle touch. Yeah.
His like, improved sort of social experiences for you guys, his improved quality of life. Like, there's a lot of different character to each of the powers, and that kind of comes across in how you play. But it also comes across in how, like, how much you can see the influence of the power in the different states.
And we're seeing here, then it goes
exploited
to fortified.
Exploited to fortified, yeah. So you start to see a little bit more branding. They've started to get some of those physical like things in there. They're really trying to make their presence more firmly known, and it's a little bit more permanent looking as well. Obviously, it isn't permanent. You can change this as a player, but it's harder to push things out of this state, and that's represented in the game as well. Yeah. So you can see at the top, we've got I'm pointing at the screen as everyone can see. You've got the banners, like the physical banners at the top with Ashling's with her logo on it. You can see like the big banners on the side as well. Obviously, you've got the electronic kind of holographic banners. You'll see adverts integrated as well. The vending machines will start to change as well. They'll get a little bit more Empire themed if it's an Empire.
And this is the thing as well. This is kind of like, I feel bad for not having Simon on. I'm glad you're here, by the way, Luke. I'm not saying it's in a horrible way.
I'd like Simon to be here as well. It'd be great.
But I mean, it's stuff down to the contents of the vending machines is the detail you'll notice. This will change depending on sort of where these systems are sitting.
Like I can picture Simon's face now as he's talking about this stuff, getting super hyped about all of this and just being like, I want to point out all of the cool stuff. And I'm not. I feel like I'm going to do a disservice to this.
No, you're not. You're doing a great job.
So let's talk about Stronghold briefly whilst that's still running. So the Stronghold stuff, like. Obviously, you got all those physical assets, you've got all of this stuff layered on, but now you're starting to see the full like impact of this power. Like as a stronghold state, like that is the top level of influence that a power can hold. And essentially everyone in the system is now convinced that it's pretty good to have this power here. And we're very supportive of that. And that comes across in all the physical locations as well. Yeah. So you can start to see, you've got like, there's a lot more physical branding. You've got like the stamps on the floor. You've got all the vending machines are probably like very firmly kind of Empire themed with occasional like normal stuff mixed in.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we've got, I mean, that's basically. Yeah. So we talked about the 3 states, and there is another state which is contested. We'll save that for another show.
Yeah, contested is a fun one. Like obviously we're talking currently about like what happens when you've like actually gotten a hold of a system, but the really interesting stuff, which is I do want to talk about it, and I also kind of don't want to talk about it because I want to do it properly, but that's the fun stuff. That's where you've pushed a power like down to the point where they're almost holding on to this, and then you can get it into that tipping stage. Yeah.
So players can undermine this. So if you're pledged to one power and other players are pledged to another, obviously we all want to expand. Space is big, but obviously we all bump into each other at some point, and then there'll be a bit of a to-do, I think, is the posh way of putting it. All right, so we've had a look at some of the visual changes. We'll have a look there. The other thing I think we'll touch on really, really briefly, because it's still, and again, chat, we'll probably see at the top left-hand corner the footage. Please bear in mind that this is all very, very much work in progress footage. But we do want to kind of touch on very lightly the galaxy map. We've got a tiny bit of footage to show you here where you're going to make it a little bit clearer for players to work out just where powers are and how they're interacting with each other. And this is sort of all the way throughout what I think a big part of what Power Play, the refresh is going to be, right? There's a lot of UI work going in here.
Yeah. So we like the big bubble type effect that you can see, but it looks good on paper. It doesn't look as good when you're actually like trying to make use of it and you're trying to look at the barrier between stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I think people are going to be picking over with this, because if you know how PowerPlay 1 works, then the refresh, what we're kind of internally calling PowerPlay 2, is like there's stuff that's revealed by this galaxy map stuff. I think that'll be really interesting for people.
Yeah.
But
So,
you can definitely visually see the territory, and also it means that if we were to zoom in, you get a lot more detail about who owns what state it's in, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, still a little bit of a work in progress. There's some stuff we still want to do here, but
and
it's much clearer.
And to be clear, again, none of this is final. A lot of this stuff, and again, thank you so much to the team, because I know you're busy, and we were just coming in, just grabbing stuff, and we want to show this, we want to show that. So we're not going to zoom in, but I think what we're trying to get across here, and the thing about PowerPlay 2.0 is what you guys have done, and what I've seen is it's a lot easier for players to take a look at the galaxy map, find a power, pledge to it, and then find a way to make meaningful change and see and track their effort, right? Which is another thing which we haven't got anything to show here, but just allowing players to see just how well they are doing in a chosen system, and then the visual changes that has. I think it's a far more it's a far more reflective system now in terms of player effort to reward.
That's a really big thing as well. I don't want to like undersell this. I think it's really important that we, like, one of the main things that we're aware of especially in power play, is you don't know what's happening elsewhere. Like, you don't know what other players are doing. We want to change that. We want to really make that visible. So you know if people are pushing back against you. Even if they log on at a completely different time to you, you can tell. You can log on and go, oh my God, someone's pushing against us really hard here.
Yeah.
We want to push that back the other way. And you can see that, and you can feel the impact of players. And the other really nice thing about power play is it's all player driven. So if something's moving, you can tell that it's a player doing it. You can tell that it's 100 players doing it. You could probably tell that it's thousands and thousands of players doing it. Like, it's that level of weight and the fact that it's coming from another person is really visible, which is super nice.
And I think that's another really cool thing about what you guys are doing with Elite. I mean, we do love our narratives. Obviously, we've really enjoyed what people have been doing with the Thargoids, but I think we get the biggest kick out of watching players create their own narratives, right, and watching them push powers out and do that sort of stuff. And it's really intriguing to watch us do it. And we even saw it in the Thargoid War, right, when players sort of galvanized amongst themselves and started to form their own sort of reactionary forces.
That's one of the coolest things about the Thargoid War. And it'd be really nice to, basically, what we'd like to do with power play, refreshing the power play like system, is to basically let you do that, but let other people be the thing that you're pushing against, and just have a great time with it.
It's the dream. I think we're close.
I
think what you guys are doing is really, really cool. And I think this is going to be really well received when players get their teeth into it. And we will do more on this at a later date to go into this, because it is simple in terms of like understanding it, but the mechanics can be complicated if you just don't know what you're looking at. And there's a lot of changes that we want to cover. Yeah. Speaking of other cool things, though, we talked about the stronghold state. You can get something else in a stronghold state, which is the stronghold carriers, right? I think we've got some credit to this.
Oh, no, we've revealed it.
Oh, no.
Okay, yeah. So, again, taking that thing of, like, we just want to make sure that the way that power play operates, it's in the game. Like, it's happening in front of you. There's a physical representation of this. It's not just some words that we've put. These are the stronghold carriers. Like, we're talking about them from the perspective of a carrier. So there's obviously a carrier in here, but like, they are supported by quite a lot of other infrastructure. These are really cool because they act as essentially a hub for the people who are supporting this power. And it should be quite nice and clear, like, as you get up close to any of this, exactly which power it's part of, and you'll obviously see that as you move into the system as well. You get loads of warnings. You if you're not pledged, or if you are pledged, you'll get some welcome sort of experiences. You get to a stronghold, and if you're pledged to that power, they will welcome you with open arms. If you are not pledged to that power, there's stuff you can do here that you can mess with the stronghold, and that's like brand new, super fun. Let's talk about that in more detail at some point.
We'll keep that for another show, but I just wanted to say, like, again, this is reflective in, I mean, we laugh about this, I think, behind closed doors, but Elite is so big, but obviously reflecting these changes in a game that is as vast as Elite is quite difficult, but this is a really neat way of you enter into a system that's a stronghold system, and immediately you're like, oh, okay, this is a stronghold. There's a stronghold carrier here. This is a sort of a major system for this power. And this is just some of the things you guys have been doing for power.
Yeah, there's a load more like little bits and pieces that we are rapidly glossing over. But some of that stuff will be stuff we'll probably end up not even being able to figure out how to show you, and you'll just bump into it in game. Some of the stuff is really cool though, and we really want to show you this stuff.
Yeah, and again, we've got a few months yet before we get to summer, and obviously the scheduled release for Power Play 2.0 or Power Play Refresh, however you want to call it. But it's really cool. I'm really excited to see it. Luke, thank you for stepping in at the last minute. I know it's you're so busy at the moment, and obviously we're calling you in from over the water. So so it's been lovely to have you come in and discuss Power Play. Have you enjoyed our good. First little? It's weird being me
our first little Luke. Thing. Yeah.
All right.
It's, it's good. I'm really looking forward to showing off a bit more of Power Play as well. Hopefully we get Simon on at some point. He can talk in a bit more detail about some of the visual stuff. But there's plenty more to talk about.
There's loads to talk about, and we'll go through it. But as much as it's been weird interviewing you, as someone who is in meetings with me every day, it's been great having you on, Luke. And thank you very, very, very much. And I'm sure, I'll see you in about an hour's time in a meeting. But for the rest of everybody else, I'll see you in a couple of months' time, Luke. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye-bye.
There we go. So thank you so much again, the wonderful Luke, for that brief overview. And again, thank you for stepping in literally last minute this morning because poor Simon was not very well and couldn't do the show. So chat, I hope you enjoyed a very, very brief look at Power Play 2.0 and some of the features that are coming in there. I've been reading the chat. I understand there's people want to understand more about the mechanics, and it's notes I'll take away and help we'll go through on another show. We'll talk about the different states and how they affect how power can expand and how the different radius is based on those system states, be they contested, exploited, fortified, or stronghold states, and how powers use those then to take on or to progress into other systems and push forwards, and how players can undermine the activities they can do. We'll get a look at those carrier groups and and what you can do later on to see how what sort of gameplay you'll be experiencing around those as part of Power Play. And we'll have a closer look at some point as well at some of the UI changes, so we can get a better understanding of all players, and certainly those involved in Power Play. We'll have to look at that galaxy map, zoom in, and as Luke said, take a good look about what they're doing and how it's affecting pushing their power one way or another. And again, we'll go into details about how certain activities and how much percentage carries over if we meet a threshold and all that good stuff. It's a lot to go through, chat. It's a lot for me to process, but I'm reading the chat, I understand it, but I hope you can see where we're going. We're going to make it much clearer, much more accessible for players. We want to see you start creating these narratives in the game. Really excited to see it. And we'll hopefully get some more details about the stations and some of the visual changes you'll see. So it won't just be looking at Power Play through a menu. You'll actually see those changes in the galaxy at large. Be it some graffiti in a station, perhaps it's a stronghold that looks all nice and tidy, even down to all the work they're going into to customizing the vending machines to reflect the power changes. And of course, I've seen people asking about the Python Mark II. It's coming, but we're not showing any more of it on today's show. But there's enough. We've shown enough of it, right? It's out there, right? So it's coming. So don't worry about that. So thanks again, Luke. The competition is now closed. That's us for the competition today. And we do have a winner. And thank you, producer Adam has popped it in my notes on the screen on the left-hand side there. And it is Alex Rexid. Alex Rexid. I'm going to say it's Alex Rexid, and that's it. That's your name forevermore, and you'll accept it because you've won a whole load of swag. The controller, the press kit, the keyboard, the sign cap, the swag bag, the copy of the game. That will be on its way to you. Make sure to check out for that official DM from Frontier Twitch. That kind of sums up our show. It's been a great show. We've had a really bumper March. I really hope you appreciate all the stuff we've gone through. All of my love to all the wonderful developers, producers, QA who've worked so hard this month to get this show going, because obviously, as you can tell, we've been very, very busy. So sorry there was so much pre-recorded, but we had to because we had no time. We were too busy launching games and making games. We are going to be back, as always, last Wednesday of the month, and it's Wednesday the 24th of April, 1800 UK time. Now, I'm saying UK time because I can't do the maths and work out which countries are swapped over because our clocks change next weekend, and I just can't do it, chat. I'm so sorry. That's it from the show. I think I've done everything. You should all have your Twitch drops. We'll be back next month. I've had a blast chatting to you all. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one. I'm retaining the kiss, chat. Mwah. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.